and all his eyes feel heavy as he steadily wakes up. Yet another night of restless sleep. As he shifts his legs around underneath the warm covers, cold air flows under them, setting a fresh feeling up his body. His feet are cold, and he brings his legs closer to him. The heat from his body should be enough to keep him warm, not to miss his fur. However, it feels like the cold is getting worse. He hugs one of his pillows tightly to his body to keep warm. The feeling of warmth that is usually carried with him has been diminished these past few days. The rest of his senses have finally started to kick back in, and a strong sensation begins to overtake him. It's a scent, Ritter. He knows that every time he stills around in his bed, with the scent invades his senses. It's been a few days since their intimacy, and his smell still lingers. It's not a bad smell by all means. Ritter usually smelled so nice. The scent isn't artificial either. It gives off a natural feeling. Thinking about Ritter causes a flood of recent memories to flow through his mind. For the past few days, every time he wakes up, he feels as if each memory smacks him in the face all over again, reminding him about everything that's happened with no remorse. It almost feels unbelievable, and sometimes he'll wake up in the morning and as he's still coming to, he'll feel a moment of pure bliss and hope that it was all just a nightmare. It wasn't a nightmare, though. If only it was. His eyes are starting to well up with tears that he doesn't know if they're watering from waking up or if it's because of Saul. To be honest, most of his worries come from thinking about Winter. He feels awful knowing that he wasn't able to go and visit Winter yesterday. Lately, the whole castle has been in an uproar, and he's barely had a chance to sit down. He knows that Winter is strong, but he just can't bear the thought of him thrown down there. Winter is definitely being fed, but it's still a terrible place to be. He doesn't deserve it. Sometimes he wishes that he could take his place and be the one that was thrown in a cell. He cares for Winter an awful lot, but somehow that doesn't feel like it has anything to do with this notion. He wholeheartedly believes that Winter was not the one who did it. Knowing this makes it sensitive. A justice swell up inside him. He cannot allow such a form of injustice to happen. He'll do anything he can to help Winter, not just because of love, but because of loyalty. Lyre adjusts himself to get up from bed, and the scent invades his nose once more. It's also almost intoxicating and reminds him of all the fond memories he's had so far. With his free paw, he traces his finger from his groin across his navel and up to his abdomen. That night when Winter was inside of him was the closest he had ever been with anyone, both physically and emotionally. He had never truly felt such strong feelings like those until now. He's sure of it. Never has he been so connected with someone who truly understands him. The bed beneath him creaks as he slides his legs off the end and swings him down onto the ground. Both emotionally and physically, he had never truly felt such strong feelings like those until now. He's sure of it. Never has he been so connected with someone who truly understands him. The bed underneath him creaks as he slides his legs off the end and swings him down onto the ground. His padded feet brush the cold floor and send a shiver up his spine as a chilly draft blows over his naked body. This doesn't worry him too much though, knowing that the air will eventually warm up as the day marches on. Carefully, Lyre stands up and stretches his legs by walking around, give his body a chance to fully wake up. He only slept for about 3 hours instead of the usual 4 or 5. He feels refreshed, though, and that's all that matters. It's always the short rest that feels the longest. He takes a few steps around his bed and looks out the window. Crisp snow has piled up on the sill, and the morning sun simmers through the top of it like crystals. The room has a dull and cozy glow to it, which contrasts the colorful morning sky outside. Lyre swiftly walks to the other side of his room near the door and puts on a long cotton coat. Lifting the coat up and sliding his arms into the sleeves allows him to get a whiff of his own body. It's not a terrible smell, but he could definitely use a bath. The last one that he took was the quick one he had right before everything fell apart. He'd like to visit Ritter later and wouldn't want to smell unclean. He will also have to attend Prince Idris's coronation. That's supposed to happen sometime this morning, so he should have time afterwards. Lyre then takes a pair of underwear and slides them on, along with a pair of thick trousers. Taking another look around his room, he notices that everything is still the way it was that night. The fire is out and the bed sheets are disheveled, but everything is still its place. Even the ballroom clothes that were thrown on the ground in a pile are still bundled up on the floor against his bed. It's like a memory frozen in time. Gathering up a few things, he made a motion for the door before noticing something. There's a piece of parchment face down on the ground that has been slid under the door. He bends over and picks it up, flipping it over to read it. Lee wants to meet with him after the coronation. Why? Whatever it is, he hopes it isn't more bad news. He walks over to his dresser and unlocks the top drawer, throwing the lid inside. Whatever he wants to talk about most likely has nothing to do with what's going on, but the letter gives off a feeling of urgency. He'll most likely have to visit with him before seeing Richter. Not only that, but he still has work to do everywhere else, along with figuring out how to save Richter from being strung up by his neck. He shakes this horrible thought out of his mind as he goes for the door. He takes a few steps out into the hall and looks left and right, hoping that nobody's coming. The entire corridor is empty as he strides in the direction of the stairs leading to the bathing room. He's clothed, of course, but he would rather be alone with his thoughts right now. The private bath next to his room is ideal, but right now he'd rather use the one near Richard's room. It's comfortable and people rarely use it. Most things in the guest wing are usually better quality. It's honestly a good thing the coronation today. Everyone in the castle is probably getting ready or already outside the throne room. Even the staff is most likely prepping for some posh thing afterwards. Lyre wouldn't really know. He's never been to a coronation. The cold yet fresh air wafts onto his face as he emerges from the inner halls. Weather around this time of year is cold enough to chap his nose badly. He brings his paws up to his snout and breathes into them as he walks down each twist and turn of the hall. Right as he's coming up to the bathing room door, he spots Richard's room down the hall. The door is still propped open. They're probably still conducting a search of the place. He would have been a part of it, but they asked him not to intervene since he was so close to Richter. He was a bit offended by it, but tried not to let it bother him. Swiftly, he slips into the bathroom, escaping the cold. His padded feet immediately touch the damp floor, and he has to stop himself from slipping as he steps through the doorway. The room echoes as the door shuts behind him with a soft thud. Everything spells the way it usually does, and the room is cast in a glow of colorful light from the windows above. The white marble sign is even brighter because of it. Walking over to the levers, he pulls on the ones he usually uses. He pulls the water one all the way down and then takes the one that says oils and pulls it down just a little bit. Along with pulling the soap lever down, of course, he watches as the water begins to funnel out of the faucets at the top. The scent of coconuts and natural plant aromas invade his senses as the water splashes at the bottom of the already damp pool. He begins to take off his clothes and sits them on the bench nearest to the door. Nobody's here right now, so there's no need to go to the changing room. Gently he steps into the tub and lowers himself into the hot water. It's a relaxing feeling that envelops his whole body. He dunks his head under the water squirts with his paws all around his fluff. He brings his head up from underneath the water and imagines that he now looks like a wet mop. He shakes his head a bit, splattering water everywhere and slightly drying his hair fur. After that, he lays back against the wall of the pool and lets the water wash around him. This environment allows him to truly think, at least as long as nobody bothers him. After a few moments of sitting there in the pool of warm water, he realizes something. Even though he has the determination to do it, how is he going to help Richard? He's no detective. Damn it. He begins to slowly scrub himself down, cleaning himself thoroughly. Going around and asking questions would certainly help, but who would he start with? He contemplates for a moment before remembering something. The dagger that was found at the scene of the crime has intrigued him since he first laid eyes on it. It looked like an ordinary dagger at first glance, but something seems off about it. In a unique way, he has to figure out sooner or later where did that dagger come from. Maybe he would figure out who the owner was. Eden would be the best person to talk to. He supplies the best weapons in the village and is a master of his craft. He's made weapons for the highest nobles around, including being the one who crafted Reno's sword. He should know at least something. The owl rises a bit from the water with a feeling of triumph now that he has a clearer goal in mind. He'll clear Richard's name. He has to. He finishes cleaning himself and gets out of the bath. His fur is now sleek and shines the wood's brown color in the morning light. Water drips off of his body and onto the slippery floor, creating small puddles around him. He walks over to the levels and resets them, allowing the water to stop him and the pool to drain. Walking over to the bench, he takes a dry towel off of the cling pile and begins to lightly dry his fur, but not too much. He doesn't want to get rid of the oils in his fur that help keep it sunny and smooth. Once he's done patting himself down with the towel, he places it in the basket it broadens and stands. He then proceeds to shake his body, mostly his head, almost like how a dog would when they are wet. Water flings off of him, creating a thick mist cloud, and his fur fluffs up for a moment before laying back down on his body. He wouldn't dream of doing something like that in front of someone. He usually tends to keep his canine tendencies to himself and refrains from acting in such a way in front of people. After that little bit of theatrics, he dresses himself, the dry clothes sticking into his damp body, and then leaves through the door. After laying down and allowing himself to fully dry off, Lyre rises from his bed and begins to get ready for the ceremony. It's best if he arrives a little bit early. Looking at one of the mirrors on his wall, he runs his paws through his fur. As untamable as it is, he likes for his fur to look as decent as possible. After tidying up his fur, he walks over to his armor stand. His ceremonial armor is loosely thrown onto it from the night before. He takes a full bodysuit and slides it up his legs and around his torso, sliding his arms into the sleeves. It's warm and lined with leather on the inside. He then takes the breastplate, gorget and connected pauldrons and puts them on. He's gotten a little better. He takes the full bodysuit and slides it up his legs and around his torso, sliding his arms into the sleeves. It's warm and lined with leather on the inside. He then takes the breastplate, gorget and connected pauldrons and puts them on. He's gotten a lot better at putting his armor on by himself over the years. It's a relatively easy set of armor to put on, considering it's mostly meant to be ornamental. The armor that he would wear in actual combat somewhere in a trunk, and that's very hard to put on. It would be easier with two people, maybe a squire, but Lyre refused having a squire when the opportunity was given to him. He doesn't entirely need the help of, and he has no wisdom to offer yet. I just had to accept that he would be wasting their time. Reno wasn't upset about it though. He rarely ever got too upset about things. Locking the last bracer onto his wrist, he stares in the mirror and looks himself over. His armor may look a bit ridiculous at times, but it's very comfortable and protects from the cold perfectly. He latches the cape onto his pauldrons, equips the sheath from his sword, and goes to leave for the door. But just as he's about to leave, he looks at the helmet still sitting on the armor rack. It's a typical knight's helmet fitted to a wolf's head, even styled to look like a wolf. Every knight in the Royal Guard has one styled after their species, but nobody ever wears them. They're extremely uncomfortable and not really needed for day-to-day duties. Most knights either carry them around under their arms or just don't even bother to bring them. For a moment, Lyre considers bringing it to the ceremony, but then reconsiders knowing that he won't even be on duty. Even as captain, he'll most likely just get to hang back in the crowd and watch from the center of the room. You can't help but wonder if they planned it this way. Maybe they didn't want the one person who was closest to Ritter planted right alongside the throne. Then again, nobody has really accused Lyre of anything yet. He steps through the door and out into the dim corridor. Thankfully, the throne room isn't too far from his bed chambers. He can even hear some distant chatter coming from where the throne room is. It's pretty far away, but his hearing is better than most. He starts walking down the hall with his paws relaxingly placed on the handle of his dagger. On his way, he passes a few people who are clearly making an effort to pay him no mind. Being one of the tallest people in the hallway can make it hard to blend in. It appears that most people are trying to avoid contact with him, though. He notices that when he makes eye contact with some people, they avert their eyes and continue to talk with whoever they're strolling with. He'll just have to get used to it. People will be people. More and more people cloud the hall as he approaches the large doors leading into the throne room. Some of them he recognizes as nobility from the nearby cities. There are a lot of lords and traders of all different shapes and sizes. He even spots a few heads of some smaller noble houses from the west. They're wearing their crests proudly and chatting amongst themselves. There's even a small band off to the side talking with each other and tuning their instruments. Everyone's standing up against the walls and pillars, allowing the light to beam through the windows onto the floor. It shines brightly and illuminates the whole room, giving each plant growing on the wall a healthy glow. Lyre desperately tries to spot anyone in the crowd that he knows, so he's not standing around awkwardly. Suddenly, he hears someone a short distance away say his name. Sir Lyre? Lyre turns around to see Kadad standing alone, his paws behind his back. He has a thoughtful expression on his face. The charismatic attitude he carries is currently absent. Hello, Lord Kadad. Hope things are well. As well as they can be. He looks at the ground in discomfort. I also hope that things are good with you. Given everything that's happened, Lyre would start venting about his problems right here, right now, but he decided to give the simple answer. Kadaz doesn't know him too well, so he'll try to spare him the details. Nothing's been great, but all I can do is keep moving forward. That's all any of us can do. Unfortunately for myself, I'm unable to go anywhere. Being a hostage and all that. He says that last bit in a joking tone, but Lyre takes it very seriously. Well, we have to keep an open mind when it comes to these things. Surely you understand how everyone's suspicions are fairly placed. Oh, of course. It makes plenty of sense. He says this with a hint of sarcasm sprinkled with sincerity. I am willing to be compliant for the sake of order. Lord Ritter and I have talked about this before, and he knows how passionate I am when it comes to that. He swings his paws to the front and clasps them, arms drooping down while bouncing on his heels. By the way, how's our mutual friend? I really hope that he's okay. He's as good as anyone would be in a prison cell, but as I saw him, he seemed to be taking it better than most. Ritter's strong, so I know he'll get through it. Their conversation has been lowered to a whisper as Lyre begins to speak of Ritter. He's definitely the best of us when it comes to that. Something about him has always struck me as different. He's skilled politically, but still holds strengths in other areas. What do you mean by that? Well, I don't know much about his past, but I assume since he's not of noble blood, there's something interesting to be said of it. Lyre wonders why Kadaz is bringing this up. It is a bit interesting. Most of what I know is that Ritter was a commoner that rose to a high position of power. Something about it being like a game to him. He never talks about it much. He doesn't seem to be someone fixated on the past. No, he doesn't. At least not his own. Yeah. Lyre looks down with a bit of sadness in his eyes. You really care for him, don't you? What? This blunt statement takes him a bit off guard. To be fair, he was spacing out a bit. So I didn't mean to pry. It's just I've been hearing people talk. Yes, well, people talk. I know, but I don't care much for that. Talking is one thing, but seeing is another. Mainly, I know it's the way you look at him. I don't mean to offend, but it's blatantly obvious. Lyre sits uncomfortably, not liking where the chat is going. The blood on his face is clear as day. Where is this going? Please don't take this the wrong way. I have no intention of showing any form of judgment. Where I'm from, I also have someone that I care for deeply. As much as I hate to admit it, he says his last part on his breath. You'll never hear any judgment from me. I'm only here to help, and I know how much you care for him. Lyre makes a puzzled and embarrassed face. Whatever anybody thinks is up to them. I appreciate your concern, Lord Kadaz, but we don't need your sympathies. Y'all. Kadaz suddenly takes him by the arm and brings him to a secluded corner of the room, bringing his tone to a hissing whisper. I don't want to see Ritter swinging by his neck, or losing it. He loosens his grip on Lyre's arm and lowers his head. Lyre sees a look of doom appear on his expression. I'm not entirely sure you know how these things work, but this doesn't look good for him. Or you. I know that. I'm pretty sure I know how these things work. Lyre is slowly getting more and more annoyed as the conversation continues. Have you ever participated in a trial? No. Have you ever even witnessed a trial? I witnessed one, but it wasn't for anything big. Maybe Kadaz is right. He might not be prepared for this after all. So I understand how quick something like this can be. They're never quick. This one will be. He was found at the scene of a crime in almost impossible circumstances, accused of killing a king, not to mention he's not of noble blood. If it wasn't for his rank, he would have most likely been killed on the spot. He's right. Now recalls the night when Bjorn tried to kill Richter. Sometimes he forgets how important blood is. Not to mention his foreign status. If it was a common castle servant or a run-of-the-mill guard, then it wouldn't be that big of a problem. His status makes this 10 times worse. I'd like to think he didn't do it, but even if he's innocent and found guilty, Lyre will still end up executing a foreign ambassador. And depending on where it goes, it could lead to an all-out war. And if he did do it, then it means something much worse. He didn't do it. It escapes from Lyre's mouth like a growl, surprising even him. Believe what you want, but that won't help him. I know, but he didn't. I just know it. So that leaves me. That's not what I was implying. I'm sorry, am I interrupting something? Leaf walks out next to Lyre, looking up at the two of them with a curious gaze. No, Surrey and I were just talking about Lord Richter. He dons an annoyed expression. Yes, I'm sure everyone is. He turns to Lyre. Can I please borrow you for a moment? Both Leaf and Lyre look to Godard's. Do you mind? No, it's quite alright. There will be plenty of time to talk later. He swiftly turns to Leaf and nods. Lord Leaf? Leaf's eyes light up for just a moment and Lyre can tell he's flattered. And actually, it's just Leaf. As you please. He looks to Lyre. I hope to speak with you again soon, Sir Lyre. Sure. With that, Godard turns around and walks off towards the front of the throne room. Leaf takes Lyre by the paw, leads him over to another corner of the room. Lyre has a hunch over a bit, but follows behind. Now, I haven't had a chance to say this, but I'm really sorry about everything that happened. I know that our king was like a father to you. He was a dear friend to me for a very long time. This little glove ring is still gripping Lyre's paw tightly. Not only that, but our friend from Erin is accused of being the killer. Lyre can tell that his voice is a bit weak. What I'm trying to say is that I know how you feel. And our poor prince is in a lot of pain because of all this. He pulls on Lyre's paw and brings him closer to his face. So please refrain from speaking about these things in public. It's probably the most worked up Lyre has ever seen Leaf. He lets go of his paw and relaxes his body a bit. Alright, I'm sorry. Why shouldn't I? Because right now we need to keep things a bit under control. He lowers his voice to the softest whisper. Lyre has to lean in to hear him, even with his enhanced hearing. If anybody hears of these little conversations, word will spread. Public opinion can be a huge detriment to something like this. And we can't have this situation delve into more chaos than it already has. Do you understand what I'm saying? I suppose. You need to keep a low profile. Feel free to ask questions to those you truly trust, but try to stay away from gossip and rumors. Oh, it wasn't like that. As much as I don't personally trust Godard, especially at the moment, he wasn't trying to anything like that. It's small, but I don't get the feeling that he wants to prevent Richter's head being put on a pike. After that, he just wants the peace that he's always preaching about. Or both. Leaf suffers slightly. This is why I wanted to talk to you in private later. I think I may have found something. Something that has to do with Richter. I wanted to show it to you first, though. What is it? Leaf grips his wings together tightly. I can't talk about it here. Lyre crosses his arms with an impatient look on his face. He didn't think things had to be this private. Okay. I'll head straight to your study after this. Got it? Right. Goodbye for now. These scuttles off into the crowd. People taste his place at the front. Given his height, it makes sense. Now goes to take his place in the crowd. Yet he overhears something from a group of people. An old lord talking to another man of similar qualities. For what I hear, he was assigned to the traitor as a bodyguard by King Rayner himself. A glorified servant, if you ask me. It can't be that bad, can it? Yes, well, it grew to be something more than that. Now slowly walks up to the man, his body still resting on his dagger. According to the rumors, they become something like blasphemous lovers. Honestly, I sometimes wonder why he was even given the rank of captain in the first place. Ahem. The first noble turns around with a smarmy grin on his face. The second and third already saw Lyre opposing and quickly avert their gaze with embarrassed expressions. I can't help but overhear you speaking ill of Lord Ritter and myself. The fact that Ritter is in a cell won't stop me from letting him fight his own battles, but you also insulted me. I would advise you not to talk about things you know nothing about, unless you wish to fight the one of whom you speak so rudely. The man grumbles to himself and strikes his jacket. Please, the lord you speak of isn't even a lord. Despite your rank, you're a northern bumpkin from a dying family. Wouldn't be throwing your strength around if I were you, Lord Reed. It's Captain Reed to you, and I'll defend myself against anybody who speaks behind my back like a coward. My allegiance is to this kingdom and its people, but I will not bow to the likes of you. With that, he turns around and walks away. One of the idiots says something, but he doesn't listen. They can have the last word if they want, but he's not going to stoop to their level. He knows that this completely goes against Lee's advice, but he's not just going to let people get away with stuff like that. He still has his pride. If they want to gossip about him or Winter, they better make sure he's out earshot. Lyre moves up a bit more toward the center of the crowd and stands in front of a tall bull and bear. He doesn't want to block anyone's view. After about a minute of waiting, the noise begins to calm down. Everyone in the hall is silent aside from a few whispers. Now I can see Liz standing off to the side of the throne. Her silhouette is bathed in a golden glow. Across from her is someone in a green robe. They're holding a small pillow, and on it sits a crown. Raynor's crown. It's probably been fit to Aegis's head, but it's definitely still the same crown. It's been passed down through the Elsian family for as long as anybody knows. A door opens at the right side of the room, and there stands Aegis. His face is dull and motionless, like a statue. He's also wearing a gaudy cloak that Lyre remembers hearing about. It's a wool cloak of a rich green color. The collar is adorned with purple feathers, and the inside is lined with purple fur. It is a ceremonial cloak that all kings wear when they are crowned. He's accompanied by two guards who walk him up to the throne and then depart. Aegis slowly turns around to face the crowd. All eyes are upon him, and everyone is silent. The musicians have already begun to play their symphony, and it fills the hall with angelic noise. The suspense flows out over the audience like a wave as they wait for Aegis to speak. I had not wished to be here, standing before all of you on this day. He pauses shortly into his speech. His voice is a bit shaky, yet he continues. But the day has come, and I cannot lie by saying that I had not prepared for it. Every prince has this responsibility put on them since the day they were born. It terrifies us, it haunts us, and yet we endure, not for our sake or our fathers, for the sake of the people, our people, just as also his side in the direction of the castle town. Today I speak for the pride of Lyre, the pride of this kingdom and its people. History has finally crossed paths with destiny, and we as a kingdom must band together as one, to assure our survival and to take control. He clenches his fist with determination. Liz is looking upon him proudly, and everyone in the crowd is practically holding their breath. I had but one dream, one goal to strive behind. It is a promise to myself and a sacred vow to all of you. I will not lead you astray. I will take action, and there will be no compromise. We will not buckle, yield. We will not buckle, break, or yield in the face of those who mean to put us down. We, as a kingdom, will dig our hooves in and push back. You will give me all you have. In return, I will give you everything. His voice wavers a bit, but he keeps going. I will ensure that our kingdom prospers, and I will make no excuses. I will not make hollow promises. This is my vow. I, Idris Arzian, son of Waynor Arzian, swear before the lands of Tigran in all of their splendor, that I will leave this kingdom greater than I found it. Let the higher gods bear witness. We will preserve. After taking a moment of pause, he looks down and nods to the person in the cloak. They begin to speak toward him in a soft voice that somehow echoes throughout the hall. Idris Arzian, son of Waynor Arzian, and Alina Arzian, rightful ruler of the Lyre throne. Do you proclaim today that you will protect the people of Lyre and guide them toward a better future? Are you prepared to follow and fulfill the responsibilities of a true monarch by keeping the peace, upholding the law, and administrating justice? There's a short pause before he confirms. I will. The hooded figure slowly holds out the pillow. Lyre steps forward and takes the crown. She raises it up to place on his head. And now pronounce you King Idris Arzian, ruler of Lyre, or the Holy Triad. The crown is placed upon his head and Lyre steps back. May his rule be long and prosperous. The throne room erupts with applause. Lyre claps along with him, but notices something. Idris could rarely be caught in a good mood, but an even rarer occurrence was to see him cry. These were not tears that would be shed after witnessing something beautiful. They were the tears of a proud leader. They were not tears of joy. So we went into Lyre's perspective in this part. So he's going to do some investigating to see who the real killer is. I liked it when he confronted those nobles when they were talking, they were talking a bunch of mess about Richter. That's typical nobles, just all this superiority complex, and they just dismiss anybody who they feel is inferior to them, especially those who don't have noble status. So I enjoy that part when they all just got into their faces and called them out on their cowardice. This the way they taught those nobles. They were just typical noble behavior, just condescending, just belittling those who they think is beneath them. And we got to see Idris coronated. He's king now. He's still very emotional over his father being killed. So next time we'll go into Idris's perspective, and we'll get a good idea of what's in his mind. We know that he's sad and depressed over his father being killed, but we get to see what she's actually thinking. And we'll get to see more. We'll probably get to see how he really feels about Richter. in everything that's going on. So that's all for now. All the information for the games and scripts and box below. Thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.